Hello dear friends, with you Nai. If you like to travel in MAINCRAFT, visit new biomes and maybe even other worlds in general, study new hitherto unseen creatures, collect new resources, and prefer it to be given with a certain degree of difficulty, then today's fashion review is for you. It is also suitable for fans of technomagic. So, the modic that we are considering today, or distant worlds, and it is intended for the MAINCRAFT version 1.18.2. At the moment, the mod adds one new dimension, in which there are several beautiful, very atmospheric biomes, new mobs, some of which can be tamed, new resources, as well as some new mechanics with which you can create and enchant weapons, armor, and tools. And of course there are new glasses too, where without them, the mod is quite large, so I have divided this review into two parts. In the first, we will look at the new world, its vegetation and wildlife, and in the second, we will talk about some mechanics, including the creation of a multi-block altar, on which all sorts of objects are being crafted and chatted. But first of all, it should be mentioned that to play with this mod, you need to install 3 auxiliary mods, namely Patchouli, Heclip, and KJulius, HeyPi. Links to the modic itself, the auxiliary, as well as to the YouTube channel of the tank, you can find in the description under the video. By the way, be sure to go to his channel and support him with a like. It's not difficult for you, but the tank will be pleased. And now let's take it in order. If you decide to appear in the world and immediately rush in search of new worlds, then cool your ardor, because no matter how much you run, you won't find new biomes so easily, and the only new item you will discover will be the Book of Distant Worlds. It makes sense for you to read it as soon as the opportunity presents itself. It is from it that you will learn about a new dimension called Gino. Well, to get there, hell must become your second home. And this is without exaggeration, and all because you will have to make the transition to Gino from Nether. But it's not so simple here either. First you have to kill the desiccant. It is the boss, not the skeleton from the dryer, and perhaps more than once, because the item we need, the dryer totems, fall out with a 75% chance. In other words, it may not fall out the first time, and that's not all. Then you will need Ender's Eye and fire charges. Putting them together like this, we get the Eye of Gino, and we'll need as many as 2 of these eyes. Then, we put these eyes together with a totem from the dryer and get a charged totem, which in general is our ticket to Gino. But again, wait to pack your bags. We're not going anywhere yet, because first of all, wherever this totem does not work. And secondly, Gino is a very alien world, so we need to take care of the return ticket in advance. And the way home can provide us with a special ring, which is called the Ring of Return. To create it, we again have to scour the bowels of Nether, because his craft is like this. It makes sense to tie the return ring to some safe point, preferably at your base. To do this, take the ring in your hand and right-click it on this very point, necessarily in a squat. An unbound ring teleports you to the 0 coordinates of the ordinary world, and vertically, that is along the y-axis, it will choose the highest unoccupied point. In other words, you will have to appear on the ground or on the water. The ring will eventually be consumed, but it can be recharged with the Eye of Ender. By the way, it works not only from Gino. You can use it to return to the coordinates of the house from any world. But, let's say, we did everything, there is a ring, there is a charged totem. Now, we need to excavate the cave to the root rocks, that is, to the level of the 5th block or below. And so we descended to the very bottom of hell. Now take the charged totem in your hand and right-click. And finally, we are transported to a new unexplored world called Gino. According to its structure, Gino is a kind of mixture of Nether and the ordinary world, in the sense that you have the sky above your head, but below your feet there are buildings that look like cliffs, and caves, like in a cave. This world is also similar to Nether, in that it is impossible to fill the local lava with water. However, above your head, you have a lot of small yellow stars and 3 celestial bodies, each of which resembles a diamond-shaped sun. All of these elements gradually disappear as you descend deeper into the world and become dimmer at higher depletion values. By the way, if you look at the sun through a telescope, you can earn a half-secret score. If you are a reasonable person and have prepared a return ticket for yourself, then it's time to go and enjoy the views. In a critical situation, do not forget to use the ring. To do this, right-click while holding it in your hand, this time without any squat. By the way, you can choose a place you like in Garna, for example, some kind of danjik, and tie the dryer totems to it, just like you did with the ring. That is, click them in a squat on some convenient block on the floor. Keep in mind that in the future, when you want to return to Garena, you will still have to teleport from the lower level of Nether. Well, if you are not such a reasonable person, and were in a hurry to go to another world, then congratulations. You have earned a point called "Where is the exit here?" And from that moment on, you need to move, because you will not find materials for crafting rings here. Your only chance of salvation is to loot the dungeons, in which with a small probability, you will be able to find that very ill-fated ring. Maybe you've already decided that everything is bullshit. You're going to build a bazooka here now, break up the beds, and slowly wander around the neighborhood looking for a ring. Yes, nothing like that. Your watch is ticking, and you are literally in a race with death. The fact is that the atmosphere of Garena is so alien to people that it gradually exhausts you, and you can stay there for a very limited time without risking your life. This effect is called Garena Depletion, and while you are in this dimension, it adds 20 points of exhaustion to you every second. Exhaustion itself has several stages. When you have accumulated 5,000 points, the effect of hunger will be imposed on you. After 10,000 points, weakness will be imposed on you, and it will be more difficult for you to fight the monsters that are there by the well, and which we will talk about a little later. After 15,000 points, more desiccation will be imposed on you, and after reaching 20,000 points, you will simply die. If the desiccation does not finish you off earlier, of course, you can determine exactly what stage of exhaustion you are in by the effects imposed on you, but you can also be more precise. To do this, you need to craft this kind of thing. It is called a delight indicator and is made of ordinary watches and delight crystals, which you can only get in this dimension. If you take the indicator in your hand, you will see 3 lines: exhaustion, adaptation, and immunity. And just the top line shows your current state of exhaustion. By the way, thousands in the indicator are indicated by the letter K. If someone suddenly has not encountered such a designation before, that is, if you see the inscription 5K, it means 5,000. The indicator can be placed in the slot for amulets. It's right here. Well, or you can just right-click and he will jump into the desired slot. In this case, the indicator data will be visible to you all the time, but at the same time, it will block a piece of the screen. When the indicator is no longer needed, just pull it out of the amulet slot. Well, now the good news: exhaustion can be slowed down, sometimes quite significantly. And over time, you can even develop immunity, with the help of which you can stay in Garena for quite a long time, without harm to your health. To do this, we will have to eat food, some local food, as well as craft elixirs from local raw materials. We will talk about this in detail again a little later. In the meantime, I'll explain the general principle. When you drink some types of elixirs, the effect of Garena immunity is imposed on you, and your adaptability to local conditions also increases. As you can see, at the moment it is 0 out of 5. When the adaptability reaches 5, it will reset to 0 and go into 1 unit of immunity. Maximum immunity slows down the effect of Garena depletion by 65%. The difference between adaptability and immunity is that if you die, the adaptability points are reset, but the immunity points remain. That is, with immunity, you will be reborn immediately, less sensitive to the influence of Garena. And now it's time to carefully consider the situation in Garena. As you can see, the world is quite gloomy. Fog envelops it in places, but There are many beautiful luminescent plants growing here, as well as spilled lava puddles in some places, thanks to which we can still somehow navigate. There are currently 4 biomes in this dimension: burning plains, sticky swamps, valleys of the dead, and red-hot hills. In all biomes, plants grow and mobs live, which are characteristic exclusively for these very biomes. And now, we are going to see what interesting and useful things we can find there. So, the burning plains. From a distance, the biome resembles meadows enveloped in eternal flame. And the reason for this is not only lakes and lava pools, but also vegetation characteristic of this area, namely, bushes and grasses that look like living lights. Any of these glowing herbs can be collected and converted into an orange dye. And of course you can take it with you and plant it in a pot at home. But here in Garhan, we are more interested not in them, but in these nondescript prickly bushes. They glow only in the last stages of growth, so they are easy to miss. However, very valuable as mulda berries grow on them. A ripe bush looks larger than an unripe one, and berries begin to glow on it when it matures. Maturation can be accelerated with the help of bone meal, and berries are collected in the same way as vanilla forest berries. By the way, they can be planted in the same way, but only on the same land on which they grow, that is, in lifeless soil. It can also be planted on soil called layered mud, which also comes across in the world of Gino, or even in a pot. At the same time, the opportunity to harvest will not be lost. The berries themselves can be eaten. They will satisfy you 4 units of hunger, give you 2 units of saturation, and remove 200 units of Gino depletion. If you decided to pick up these berries for the future, then know that for compact storage, they can be put in boxes with asmold berries in this way. The box can be placed on the ground. It is half a block high. Well, just like that, there are these berries, and it's too wasteful. It is best to make a pie or an elixir out of them. But for the cake, you will need sugar and wheat, and for the elixir a bottle. You may find the bottle somewhere in the treasures, but you can't definitely find wheat in Gino. The pie will satisfy you 8 units of hunger, that is, 4 bones of hunger, will give 4 units of saturation, and remove 1500 units of Gino depletion. The elixir is a little weaker. It gives 4 units of hunger quenching, 3 units of saturation, and will remove 1000 units of Gino exhaustion. But it gives the effect of Gino immunity for 30 seconds, and with a chance of 5%, can increase your level of adaptability. In the Burning Plains biome, you can find an ore called carolite. You can extract it from such seemingly inconspicuous ore blocks. And the dropped resource is called raw carolite. It's something like charcoal. It can be used both in a conventional and in a lithium furnace, but about it a little later. You can also make a torch out of it, with the same craft as vanilla, only use carolite instead of charcoal. But it can also be burned out and get a more efficient fuel, ordinary carolite. If raw carolite burns through 8 items, then overcooked 16. In addition, twice as many torches will come out of it. Carolite, both raw and overcooked for storage, can be stored in a block. Walking around the world of Gino, you will meet many different dungeons similar to old libraries, watchtowers, or some ruins. In the Burning Plains biome, these dungeons are often guarded by frollet golems. Frollet golems were once awakened from red-hot stones with the help of magic. Those who awakened them have long since left these places or may have died, but devoted servants still guard their abandoned abodes. There are 3 types of these golems in total, and they differ in appearance and style of fighting. The first of them, Labor, is a large golem that has 30 health units, 2 armor units, and an attack of 5 units. It's heavy, so it's quite difficult to throw it back with your attack. In addition, he is able to impose an ignition effect on you, and thereby set you on fire with his next blow. After killing him, you can get a red-hot frollet or a frollet heart with a 10% chance as a trophy. With the help of a frollet heart, you can create a potion that will reproduce the effect imposed by the other. Next comes Krautel. This is a smaller golem, It has 15 health units. Armor is 1 unit. It deals 2 units of damage. He moves faster than the previous one and prefers to attack in a group, and is also able to set fire to his opponents. After killing him, pieces of red-hot frollet also fall out. Shrulet is a flying golem with 15 health and 2 armor units. He throws exploding frollet stones at you from afar. After death, he drops a red-hot frollet and a frollet ball with a 30% chance. A cup of loot will help you increase your chances. In addition to such evil creatures, there are biomes of the burning plains and relatively harmless ones. They are called buglands and look like a hybrid of a shelled woodlouse and a one-eyed turtle. The buglands themselves are neutral. You can safely walk past them. They will not touch you. But if you attack first, they will first hide in the shell and will shake in indecision from fear and resentment. But then they will come out and try to pile on you. When Bulin is alone, it's not a problem. You can just beat him every time he pops out. The problem may arise if there are several of them, because then everyone who is nearby will warm up on you. So, their health is 15 units, armor is 6, attack is 4, but it doesn't make sense to beat them when they are in a shell at all. It consists of a material called umbracite, and it is unrealistic to break through it. After killing Buglan, you will receive an umbracite crystal, which can be converted into an umbracite ingot with the help of copper. A very useful resource, but about it another time. Well, you and I are moving to the next biome, called Sticky Swamp. Here, as in all other biomes of Gorkina, there are many luminescent plants, but, unlike the flaming plains, they are pinkish-red in hue. Pollen particles are flying everywhere, and the ground is sticky in places and slows down your movement. By the way, a plant from this biome can be converted into a pink dye. The first thing that attracts attention in this biome is the beautiful flowering trees. They are called Garcilevi trees, and they not only look beautiful, but also very valuable. In addition to the obvious wood, from which you can make a whole lot of different blocks, beautiful foliage and flowering vines, you can also get free lamps from this tree. However, they can only be removed with scissors. Otherwise, they are destroyed, and shining pollen falls out of them with a small chance. From the foliage of a gorsolive tree, a gorsolive fruit, as well as seedlings, may fall out with a small chance. The chance of fruit falling out of the flowering foliage is slightly higher. Fruits can be collected in the storage unit. By the way, the foliage itself will not collapse. You will have to work with handles. You can plant seedlings in the same soil on which these trees grow. It is called layered mud. And plant it either as a single seedling or in the same way as dark oaks in 4 seedlings. With bone meal, you can stimulate not only the growth of a tree, but also the flowering of foliage and flowers. By the way, Gorsalevoy wood, in addition to the fact that it is beautiful, there is another great property: it is fire-resistant. Cracked gorsalic wood can randomly appear on trees, and over time, it becomes covered with a layer of leaking mucus and turns into sticky gorsalic wood. And that's where you can get slime. To do this, you need to right-click on this sticky bark with a hatchet, but always in a squat. If you click without squatting, then you will also get slime, but then the bark will be torn off, and the log will become hewn, and will not give more slime. After frying the sticky gorsolive bark in the oven, you will get gorsolive slime. So, why do we need this mucus, fruit, and pollen? First of all, a gorsolive elixir is made from mucus and fruits. It satisfies 6 units of hunger, gives 4 units of saturation, and reduces the desiccation of Gorkina by 2,500 units, which you will agree is very solid. It also applies the effect of Gorkina's immunity for 60 seconds. Gorsalevi fruit can also be used to create a cake, and this cake can be installed on the surface, as well as vanilla. This cake satisfies 12 units of hunger, gives 6 units of saturation, but unlike the elixir, removes only 400 units of exhaustion. Shining pollen can also be used to make a jar of shining pollen. This jar should be worn as a necklace around your neck, right here in the jewelry slot. When you dig in a mine, for example, It will leave pieces of pollen on the ground and thereby save you from having to stick torches. But unlike torches, the dust will eventually wear off, and it will last about a minute and a half. The necklace itself is consumed. It will be able to supply 100 pieces of dust, but it can be recharged with 3 pieces of luminous pollen in a craft cell. A new kind of resource is being crafted from slime and shining pollen, raw virus, which is then burned in the oven, and various crystals are obtained, which in turn are used to create armor and tools. Of the resources in this biome, the earth, which is called rocky layered mud, is also useful. But if you suddenly did not get it, then it can be crafted again from layered mud and crushed frollet, which there are quite a few in the district. And this stony layered mud is useful because you can overcook it in the oven to the state of orange sand, from which you can get glass and garchin. Well, now let's take a look at the inhabitants of the sticky swamps biome. They are walking and flying vegetation. The first of them is Toron. He disguises himself as gorsa leaf trees, often hiding under them, and it can easily be overlooked right away. It's a pretty massive mog. He has 30 health units, 2 armor units, and 6 attack units. Discarding it will also be problematic. But he is perfectly able to discard you, and moreover, imposes an effect called sticky shackles for a couple of seconds. Any entities affected by this effect will receive damage whenever they fall from a height of more than half a block. That is, you will be demoted, even when you just jump on the spot. The amount of damage depends on the strength of the effect. That is, the damage is equal to the effect level. After death and death, Gorselivaya wood falls out, as well as Garselivaya bark, with a small chance. A cup of loot will help you increase your chances. By the way, you can create a potion of sticky shackles with the help of mustard slime. The second mob that lives in sticky swamps is a lotto. Although it is a flying mob, it is harmless in itself. It is worth being afraid if there is someone within complete health within its radius of action. In this case, it begins to spray pollen, which imposes a regeneration effect on all torrents in the radius of action, which will gradually increase up to the 4th level. On all other creatures from pollen, the effect of poisoning will be superimposed, and it will also gradually increase up to the 4th level. After the pollen is showered, Latters will have a 20-second rollback, after which he will be able to use his ability again. If you hit a Latterus that has not crumbled recently, then with a 70% probability, it will shower pollen on you, as well as on those creatures that are nearby. However, this poisoning will not be as stylish as in the presence of a wounded Thorin, and you can try to shield yourself from this pollen with a shield right after you strike. Latters has only 10 health units and no armor at all. And after killing them, you will be able to get glowing pollen and, with a small chance, sticky Garsolive bark. Well, we move on, and this time we find ourselves in the Valley of the Dead. This biome strikes the imagination no less than the previous ones, and in terms of its atmosphere, it made the strongest impression on me. Plants in this area also luminify, but this light is bluish, and the ground here is almost black. And apparently that's why it seems to be the darkest biome. Here we come across the remains of some giant creatures, from which only bones remained. Plants from the Valley of the Dead can be converted into a blue dough. Here, the trees, somewhat resembling Gorsalevi, but of a bluish hue, catch the eye. These are Wiltum trees. Wiltum wood can be recycled into many beautiful blocks. There are no lights on the tree, but in fact, it contains a glowing block. It's just that it is located almost at the very top of the crown and is called the core of the Wiltum. You can also convert this core into boards and then into other blocks, but you can also use it as a light source. Wiltum trees can be planted by analogy with Garsolivi exclusively on the soil of their biome, either one seedling or 4, and also bone meal can stimulate the growth and flowering of the tree. Wiltum wood is as fire-resistant as Garsolivo. A Wiltum fruit, may fall out of the foliage with a small chance. From the flowering foliage, this chance is higher. This fruit restores 4 units of hunger, gives 6 units of saturation, and also reduces the depletion of Gino by 750 units. But eating it raw is certainly inefficient. It is best to make an elixir or cocktail from it. The cocktail will restore you 8 units of hunger, give you 10 units of saturation, and remove 1,000 points of exhaustion from you. The elixir is more profitable in terms of depletion of Gino, because it will take off as many as 3,500 points from you. He will also restore 8 units of hunger, but saturation will give 4 units. As you have noticed, the crafts contain a couple more ingredients, but don't worry, we can find them in the same biome. The first of them is the vocalist. It looks like the trunk of a blue bamboo. It can be grown if planted in native soil. It will slowly grow to 4 blocks in height. Especially the care should please animal defenders, because with this plant, you no longer need to grow cows and llamas for skins. If you fold it like this in a workbench, you will get a raw vaquer, which you can then fry in the oven, and get a skin that differs from vanilla in exactly nothing. Well, the stalks of freshly extracted camir are used in a cocktail. By the way, vaquer can also be planted in a pot, and it will serve as an ornament in your home. Then, we have a fusiana, which is actually a blue glowing cactus, but not a prickly one. Fusiana can also be planted in native depleted soil, then it will gradually grow to 3 blocks in height. The resulting crop can be converted into fusiana jelly. An alternative way to get jelly is to plant a fusiana in a pot and fertilize it properly with bone dust. After that, jelly will fall out of it from time to time. Thus, with the help of a pot, you can even make yourself a mini farm for the production of fusion jelly. If you want to stop the jelly apocalypse, then use poisonous potatoes on a pot of fusiana. By itself, this jelly can be eaten, but it is not very satisfying. Restores only 2 units of hunger, that is, 1 bone. Saturation generally gives only 1 unit, but exhaustion removes only 100 units. That is, you won't even notice. But it is used in the cocktail and the elixir of Viltum, and besides it has another use. First of all, it can be converted into 3 units of sugar, which you will agree is not bad, and secondly, it is used to create a delicacy for Selmarin. And therefore, we turn to the creatures that live in the Valley of the Dead. So, Selmarins are flying snakes that live exclusively in the Valley of the Dead. They are common, and alphas, as well as cubs. But you won't meet cubs so easily, so we'll talk about them a little later. Normal Selmarins have 30 health units, 4 armor units, and 5 attack units. They do not tolerate strangers on their territory, so they will pounce on you as soon as they see you, and they see at a fairly long distance. Fortunately, they don't have anything like fire breathing or spitting poison. They need to fly close enough to you to prick you with a poisonous thorn, which is located at the end of the tail, so you can have time to shoot them from afar. Well, if they still manage to stick their tail into you, then a suppression effect will be imposed on you, which will not allow you to restore your health. The effect can be of different levels. Ordinary Selmaranki impose an effect with a level from the 1st to the 4th, and Alphachi can impose an effect up to the 5th level. The effect with level 5 completely blocks regeneration, so you need to fight Selmarins in melee with extreme caution. After death, Selmaranki drop scales and meat that can be eaten. It satisfies 3 units of hunger and gives 5 units of saturation. Well, if you fry it, it will become much more satisfying. 8 units of hunger and 10 units of saturation. But if you hate the idea of killing these beautiful bats and are already itching to tame them, then rejoice, because we have such an opportunity. To do this, we just need the same delicacy Selmarin. But you need to be extremely careful, because despite the delicacy in your hand, they will still try to kill you. Feeding a treat gives a 25% chance of taming. If the first time the Selmaranka is not tamed, quickly run away and wait for some time. The second time, you will be able to feed her only after some rollback. It is also impossible to injure Selmaran during domestication, because they will get angry at you and will not take food. We need to run away again, hide and wait until they calm down. Tamed Selmarans will follow you, wander or stay in place, like vanilla dogs or cats. If you are attacked, or if you hit someone, they will rush to help. But in addition to the usual Selmarans, Alphachi also fly through the Valley of Death. They are larger than usual. They have 2 pairs of wings and 3 pairs of eyes. The health of such a snake is 45 units. Armor is 6, attack is 7, and you won't tame it with any goodies. The blow of his tail pierces the shield and seriously damages it. Upon death, he drops meat and scales, but also as a rare drop of Selmaran's eyes, which, by the way, you won't be able to get at all without a cup of loot. This eye is very valuable, because it is used to make such an artifact as the crown of Selmaran. If you put this crown on your head, the Selmarans will take you for some kind of alpha, and will not attack unless you hit them first. However, Svami does not procandidate it. They won't believe you and will attack anyway. But the taming of ordinary Selmarans will become much easier for you. The crown breaks down over time, but it can be repaired with the help of the biome. With the help of the same eye, you can create a potion that will simulate the effect of a Selmaran spike injection, that is, suppression. But another equally important property of the eye is that with it, you can make a tame alpha out of your tamed Selmaran. To do this, you need to click on the Selmaran with the right mouse button while holding the eye in your hand. And in this way you will have a handheld alpha, which will not just follow you and protect you, but on which you can ride, and if necessary, even together with a friend. But don't rush to be too happy, because Selmarans still can't fly too fast under a rider. You don't need any saddle and bridle to ride a Selmaran. You sit on it just the way it is. Don't forget to make sure which key you have tied to the flight, and if you are not satisfied, tie the one that is more convenient for you. Personally, I tied it to the jump key. Flying on a Selmaran is like a wave, where you first gain altitude and then plan forward and down. In order to gain altitude, first hold and then release the flight key, just like you do when you jump on a vanilla horse. Selmarans can also fly backwards and sideways, but at the same time they lose speed. Selmarans get tired pretty quickly and twice as fast if they carry 2 riders. This can be seen from the endurance scale that appears on our left. Endurance and health of Selmaran can be improved with the help of Viltum fruits. Also, endurance itself recovers over time. By the way, finding a hand alpha next to you gives the same effect as wearing a crown, and it's called supervised. That is, wild Selmarans will not attack you, excluding only wild alphas. In addition to large Selmarans, we can also get cubs, and they are hatched from eggs. First of all, we can get a Selmaran egg with a rare chance from a traveling merchant. It is really very expensive. You will have to not only trade so much emeralds, but also get a turtle egg somewhere. But this way, you can get a Selmaranka before you get to Garena. You need to put this egg on the ground and stand next to it until it hatches. If you are not around, then the little Selmaran will hatch anyway, but yours will not be considered. Selmaran babies do not know how to fly and crawl on the ground. They don't attack first, but if you attack them, they will jump on you and bite. Although their health is weak, there are only 10 units. Armor is 1 unit, and attack is 2 units. When the little Selmarans grow up, the scales fall off them. The second way to get a cub is to breed tamed Selmarans. To do this, you need to take either 2 simple Selmarans or a simple one and an alpha. It doesn't make sense to take 2 alphas, because alphas will not lay eggs under any circumstances. Next, you need to feed the mated salmarins with a treat so that hearts will appear above them. If in addition to the hearts, thunderstorm particles appeared, it means that a partner inaccessible for reproduction is in range. If there is a partner, then there will be no thunderstorm particles, but only hearts, and so they will hang next to their hearts for a while. Then the hearts will disappear, and for a while it will be as if nothing happens. And then one of the salmarins will lay an egg. Or maybe it won't, if you're unlucky. Note that it is possible to multiply salmarin again only after a rollback of about 6 minutes. It's something like 2 minutes before the egg, and the rest after. If you cross an ordinary salmarin with an alpha, then the chance of successful reproduction is higher than with an ordinary salmarin. If you don't want to hatch an egg right now, then just break it and it will fall out with an object. Later, you can expose it and wait for hatching. There are a couple more interesting things in fashion for salmarin. The first of them is a Viltum roost, which is called a couch. But don't believe it, you can't lie on it. It is exclusively for flying kites. It happens to be of different colors, and its craft is like this. If you order your salmarin to stay in place, and there is just such a perch nearby, then the snake will certainly land on it, wrap around, and wait for you there. The second, in my opinion, extremely important thing is a he leaf bell. He list is the kind of ore that you can find in the depths of the Valley of the Dead. Having destroyed the ore, you will get a raw heat leaf, which then needs to be fried into a huelist nugget. 9 of these nuggets are assembled into a crystal, from which you can then make anything, including this very bell. And he is needed because salmarins have a bad habit of flying far away from the owner. By using the bell, you will order all salmons in its radius of action, which is 30 blocks, to follow you. Well, from the scales of salmarin, you can create yourself a set of armor, which, although it does not have high strength, but each part of it protects you at least a little from salmarin poisonous thorns. That is, it is ideal for you to hunt wild salmarins. And we turn to the last biome in the Garena dimension at the moment, the red-hot hills. This is a very dark biome, and all the land and vegetation in this biome is red. The plant also glows as in other biomes, and giant culophyte mushrooms grow here instead of trees. At times you will hear some kind of grinding and crackling, as well as the Geiger counter, which seems to hint that the local flora should be treated with caution. Most of the plants in this biome can be converted into red dye. Giant culophyte mushrooms can be cut down. The blocks of their trunks can be used almost like wood. Just the number of decorative blocks that can be crafted from them is a little smaller, but they are also resistant to fire. A mushroom flower grows on culophyte mushrooms. You can use it as a light source. But special mushrooms fall out of the crown, unlike any other mushrooms we have seen. You can't eat them raw, but it may be for the best, because even cooked, they are not very useful. So, the first thing that can be prepared from them is a culophyte elixir. It is certainly satisfying. It satisfies 8 hunger units at once, and even gives saturation for 6 units, which of course is not bad. But at the same time, it adds 1500 units and Garena depletion to you at once. Yes, and with a probability of 10%, it can lower your permanent immunity, which is extremely dangerous in these conditions. A little less harmful is a stew or chowder from this mushroom. But it is also less nutritious. It satisfies 6 units of hunger and gives 4 units of saturation. She also adds Gorkina's exhaustion, but only 500 units. Well, why do we need these terrible mushrooms, you ask? And isn't it better to bypass this biome side? But no, we will not only collect them, but also rake them for the future. It's even possible to put them in storage boxes like this. And all because only this biome is inhabited by some very interesting creatures for us. They are called Narkerni, and look like some kind of horned monitor lizard. Narherns come in two varieties, simple and spiny. Simple narherns are peaceful, and even if you hit them, they will just run away from you. They have 20 health units, 2 armor, for attack. But don't let this attack value confuse you. Ordinary narherns do not pose a threat to you. If you kill a narhern, then narhern meat will fall out of it, which is quite suitable for food, even in its raw form. It satisfies 4 units of hunger and gives 3 units of saturation. Well, the fried meat of narcan satisfies 10 units of hunger at once and gives 6 units of saturation. But this is not the only useful property of narherns, because they can also be tamed. This is done with the help of a culophyte mushroom. A tamed narhern can follow, wander, or stay put like vanilla dogs. But in addition, you can ride a tamed narhern, and you will have to manage it in about the same way as a vanilla pig. Only instead of a fishing rod with a carrot, you need to craft a fishing rod with a mushroom. If you don't have a fishing rod for crafting, then you can scour the dungeon in this biome, and somewhere you may well come across a culophyte fishing rod. You don't need a saddle for this, so there will be no difficulties here. The only thing is that narherns can't jump. So you need to take this into account. But they can, under your control, make jerks and attack. In order to attack, drive up to the opponents, point the fishing rod at them, and right-click. Narhern attacks several opponents within its attack radius at once. To accelerate, that is to make a breakthrough, move forward, clamp the control, and again right-click. The jerk has a small rollback, so it will not work to constantly drive on the narhern. Note that narherns will bite only under the rider. If you are followed by your tamed narherns, and someone attacked you, then you will have to get out without their help. But the second kind of narherns, then horses, is so peaceful. These are armored or spiked narherns. As you can see, they have a wide dark stripe on their back and glowing spikes. These will attack you as soon as they see you. They have 30 units of health, 4 units of armor, and 6 units of attack. In addition, these same spikes have the property of returning part of the damage to the attacker. You can't tame the spiked narherns, but after killing them, in addition to meat as a rare drop, you can get fragments of their thorns. The chance of their falling out can be increased by a cup of prey, and it's worth raising it because it would be nice to get more spikes. With these spikes, you can book your tamed narherns. To do this, you need to click the spikes on the narhern with the right mouse button. It may take several of them before narhern is booked. After that, you won't be able to ride it anymore, but now it will protect you from your opponents, like a vanilla dog. By the way, killing a domestic spiked narhern, you will not get thorns from it, only meat. Narherns can be bred both wild and domestic, but of the wild ones, only ordinary, non-spiny individuals are suitable for reproduction, and domestic ones can also be spiky. To do this, they need to be fed with that nasty stew of culophyte mushrooms. After that, hearts will appear above them, and if there is no suitable partner nearby, then thunderclouds, like selmarins, their offspring will not appear immediately. It takes some time, and it does not always work out well. That is, the cub may appear, or it may not appear with some chance, but steaming is a rollback, so you'll have to wait a while before trying to get offspring again. If one of the parents was spiny, then with a 30% probability, the cub will also become spiny. If both parents were spiked, then the cub takes over the spikes with an absolute guarantee. However, the thorns are not visible at birth, and they will appear only after adulthood. If you manage to cross a wild narhern with a domestic one, then the cub will be wild or domestic, depending on whether it was born to a wild or a domestic parent. Narhern cubs don't immediately become docile. At first, they do not know how to follow the owner, but can only stay in place or wander. They also don't know how to fight, and can only run away from danger. Their health is weak, there are only 10 units, and the armor is 1 unit. By the way, you can treat wounded Narherns with the same Kulophyte stew. For your pets, as well as for yourself, you can craft these ottomans or couches made of Garsalavoy wood. They come in all vanilla colors. You can sit on this ottoman yourself, or attach a hand Narhern to it. If you order Narhern to stay where he is, and there is such a couch nearby, he will climb on it, curl up and wait there. The spikes of the Narherns are quite a valuable trophy. In addition to the fact that you can book home Narherns with them, they can also be used in crafting. The first is Narcher armor, which is made on the basis of vanilla leather armor. It has a certain chance, depending on how many elements of such armor you are wearing, it will return damage to the enemy, like enchanting spikes. In addition, you can create a Narhern axe, which increases the chance of extracting Garsalav and Viltum fruits by 1.5 times. You can also craft Narhern gloves like this. They need to be kept not in the inventory, but here, where all sorts of additional accessories are. When they are put on, they increase your armor a little bit, while slowing down the impact speed a little, but they increase the damage you do. In addition, like an axe, they also increase the chance of falling out of Wiltum and Gorsal fruits, and using both an axe and gloves will double your chances. And you can also create a defense block from these spikes. That's the way it is. Any entities that come across it will take damage, and if there is lava under it, it will also set them on fire. Well, now let's take a look at the last mob in this biome. This is an animal mushroom, or a Kulophyte mushroom. These creatures are the natural prey of Narherns. Seeing Greiber, Narhern immediately begins to pursue and attack him. The Greiber has 10 health units, no armor at all, and he does not attack under any circumstances, but only flees. After death, he drops Kulophyte mushrooms, and as a rare drop, a mushroom cap. But for this, you definitely need a cup of loot. This hat should be worn on the head, and when the player's satiety is less than half, it will feed him, losing its strength. You can't fix it with mushrooms, only with another similar hat. But you can put some cups on it to make it stronger. For example, the same strength or repair. Of all the useful things that you can find in the Red Hot Hills biome, it is also worth noting delitic ore. Extracting it, you will get raw delite, which needs to be melted down for further work. Using 5 pieces of delite, you can make a pair of delite crystals. Pure delite is quite fragile, but it is able to transmit and store a special kind of energy. But we will talk about this in more detail in the second part of this review. It is worth mentioning another type of resource, fire. This is the kind of ore that occurs in small quantities throughout the Garena dimension. Having destroyed the ore, you will again get a raw fireball, which will have to be melted down in a nugget in the future. 1 ingot can be created from 9 nuggets. Fire metal, as well as all equipment made of it, is not susceptible to fire or lava. We'll talk about the equipment another time. And here's what else you can do. So it's to overlay the Gorsalav fruit on 4 sides with firewood ingots. And as a result, get a shining Gorsalivi fruit. He will satisfy you 10 units of hunger, give you 6 units of saturation, and remove from you at once 10,000 units of Garena depletion. Moreover, it also imposes a lot of positive effects on you, such as Garena's immunity for 100 seconds, 5th level regeneration for 30 seconds, 3rd level strength for 30 seconds, 5th level resistance for 60 seconds, and fire resistance for 60 seconds. You can eat this fruit at any time, even if you are not hungry. So as you understand, they are worth crafting and storing for the future. By the way, they can be collected for storage like this in a drawer, but you can also make an elixir from these shining Gorsal fruits, which is more profitable in terms of depletion of Garena, although less satisfying. It is crafted like this. He satisfies hunger by 8 units, saturation gives 4 units, but Garhin's exhaustion removes as much as 15,000 units. Well, and for 150 seconds, Garhin's immunity has an effect. Well, and one more detail, which I forgot to mention, but which can significantly help you in traveling around Garina. Here, everywhere under the soil layer, as well as on the sections of the slopes, you will see local analogues of stone, reddish phthalites of revelite, and dark bitumen. I advise you to pay attention to them, because in addition to using them in construction, you can use all three types to make tools and weapons, by analogy with ordinary cobblestones. At the same time, if we compare vanilla swords and swords made of Garchan stones, revelite is in general an analog of a stone in terms of impact force. Phthalate, iron, bitumen, diamonds. The strength of the revelite phthalites is the same. They are slightly stronger than stone. Alatum is slightly stronger than phthalate and revelite. The tools made of phthalate and revelite are worse, but the cast ones are quite on the level and even comparable to diamond ones, except for the strength again. In addition, they can be enchanted both on an anvil and in a regular enchantment table. Thus, if you feel sorry for diamonds, for example for a hatchet, you can easily replace them with bitumen. Well, you can find all these pebbles in large deposits or individual inclusions throughout Garna. At the same time, if you want to extract bitumen on an industrial scale, then you need to go to the Valley of the Dead, and revelite and phthalate are not few in all other biomes. And in conclusion, I would like to say that the mod makes a very good impression. It is well worked out, even such details as its own original names for plants, creatures, resources, and everything that is in Garhin are thought out. The plants and animals themselves, their appearance and functionality are quite original. A separate respect for the opportunity to drag away the flower sprouts from Garina and stick them in a pot. And it was also very nice to see a mention of my beloved in the starter book that just smiled. Of the minuses, I wanted to complain that the new beast cannot be dragged away with you into the ordinary world, but about the spoiler that the mod will soon be moved to the 20th version of the main, and there this feature will be added. And it seems like you and I are promised to introduce this feature to the 18th version, so the complaint can be said not to be relevant. Perhaps the only major thing that is missing in my opinion in Garhin is some serious boss with a unique loot, or with an alternative to a unique loot. Well, for example, like Wendy's Ender Dragon, or the ability to summon a visor after traveling to Nether. That's something of this level, but I hope that the mod will develop further, and someday a super boss will appear in Garhin. Well, you can safely write your ideas and wishes to the author of the Muta, or write here in the comments, or go to his channel and write them there. Who knows, maybe it's your idea that will inspire him to create something like that, which we always lacked in May. So this time we looked at the biomes and entities of Gorkana, and next time we'll talk about some mechanics, the original multi-block structure called the Litum altar, as well as what we can create with the help of this very altar.